Good evening, everyone. This is a special broadcast coming at you. Welcome to Epic God Radio. This is my podcast, WTIM here. I am your host, Pat Al. Um, I'm coming on a Thursday night. I did this same segment on Sunday. I came on when I was actually supposed to. They only allowed 4 minutes of my podcast to be aired. I'm guessing it's because of some of the things that I said. You have to say certain words like unalive or something, to that effect. You can't. There's words you can't say. So, which is okay. We will. That's why I'm having this special today, so I can give this information to you. I actually feel like it's more to it than that, because we touch on some pretty serious subjects on here. Um, so, with the subject that we touch on, they're kind of touchy. They're touchy. Some people will dislike it. Some people may like it. Regardless of the fact I'm gonna put it out there. I'm gonna give it to you the way it truly is. We this was a good one that we did Sunday. I'm bringing it back to you. So by all means, if you chime in, you have questions or answers or statements, I will deal with it right here while we're live. So without further ado, let's jump right in on this. This one is called Empire State of Mind. Um, what are you building your kingdom with? So when we're talking about this, one of the things I want, especially my culture to look at is, isn't it weird that it seems like the only way we can become successful is through entertainment? And when you look at entertainment, it's all emotional. You know, um, I loved playing basketball as I was growing up. It was emotional. It was an emotional thing. If you look at it, sometimes guys they'll be out there and they'll be playing, and sometimes it can get physical. It can come to fighting. Words are said. It's an emotional thing. When you sing, it takes emotion to sing. Dancing is an emotion. Um, in everything we do. Um, and it's like, for us, these are the things that we concern ourselves with, when we're looking at building empires. That's not building an empire, though, because at that point, we're participants of an empire. And this is why, you know, when it comes to success, when it comes to empires, you'll get people like Elon Musk, Steve Jobs, uh, Bill Gates. These people, they'll get together and they'll build a actual empire. They'll build a manufacturing plant. They'll build a pharmaceutical company, steel company, lumber company, concrete company, little things like that. And then what they'll do, like, let's take war, for instance. War is even also part of building an empire when you go to war. But what they'll do is they'll take and they'll have tanks, and those tanks and guns shoot bullets. So they'll have a company that makes the bullets, they'll have a company that makes the guns, they'll have a company that makes the tanks. And a lot of these people are all family members, so they're all working within themselves, um, and what they'll do is they'll say, "Look, we're going to war. I'm gonna have my uncle build the tank. My cousin is gonna make the bullets, and then after all of that's said and done, they'll have a security company, which might be the nephew, come in and secure and watch over all of this in the late hours so nobody steals them, you know. And this is it's a format, So and what they'll do is they'll give me the best gun and say, "Hey man, look, you got the CR 26, you know." And I'm sitting here and I'm like, yeah, it's the little toys. And even when you look at the music industry, you know, uh when it comes down to the music, you make the music. You yourself. But what you do is you go get with this company over here, they'll say, well, we can't sing, and I'm just showing you something here because at the end of the day, when we're looking at empires that are built, nothing can happen without the people. That's it in a nutshell. Without you buying, like let's take Walmart. If you don't go and buy at Walmart, Walmart can't make money. If you don't, and they put these things in front of you, something that I'm learning to do right now. I'm on a website and I am starting to promote everyone uh in my culture by black owned, you know. But it's funny because it's actually not funny, but they put something shiny in front of us. For instance, Versace or Burberry, and these stores, the money is being made off of you. It's being made off of all of us. And I mean that's what's happening. Whether it's through the work, the labor, you need a job, you can come work for me. You know, um, you want nice clothes and things like that. You make their clothing on that market. Oh, these are nice clothes. This is what we should be wearing, So the standard is set by the people, and then they'll turn around and they'll sell you a $1,000 coat, $500 for some pants. And we'll sit there and say, man, these pants cost $500, man. And it's, I mean, if you have it to do that, I mean, whether you have it or not, it's up to you what you want to do. Like you have the ability to do that. But when we're talking about building empires, you have to understand this is why a lot of things continue to happen in this culture. Because tell me one person, none of us can name one person in our culture that has built an empire where they stand alone. Nobody. Even when you get close to doing it, like you take, and I talked about this before. It's no coincidence that you have Michael Jackson is dead today, Prince is dead today, Tupac, Biggie, they're dead today. All of these people that you know, uh, all of these people to get somebody to listen to them. When your face is on the back of a t-shirt or front, you know, that raises awareness against you, you know. So people are walking around sporting. That means I'm listening to your message. That's what that means. So when you have people that are listening to your message, that is the start of an empire. You know, uh, as we talked before, when Bill Cosby was trying to buy Channel 4, Do you realize how much money the Cosby Show made? That means people are listening. It went from the Cosby Show to the Different World. We got Fat Albert, we got Picture Page. All of that stuff goes back, So that that was to catch the ear of the people. It's you're listening. So when I sit up here and I already have your ear, and they call Bill Cosby America's dad. So when I have your ear, and now I want to try to buy a national broadcasting center, and when I go to buy NBC, no, we can't let you do that. We can't, because everything that you've already put out, you're trying to put it out here again. We can't let you do that, man. And this is how they continue to stop us from building our empires. Anybody from our culture, once you reach the heights beyond individual achievement, like once you go past individual achievement in our culture, and you're working alone, you have to allow them to be tied to your money, or they'll bring you down. They'll shut it down. It's because if you let them be tied to your money, that means they're making some money too. They're riding your wave. If it's Michael Jordan with the Jordans, they're riding his wave, you know, and whatever the case may be. But that's just like you look at certain things, like when you look at Muhammad Ali. When Muhammad Ali, they wanted somebody to beat him. Nobody was beating him. He was sitting up here predicting his rounds that he was going to end the fight, and he was doing it. So when it came down to it, what did they say? We want to stop, we want to shut him down. The only way we can shut him down, oh, well, the draft is going on. So what did they do? They tried to send him to war. We're going to send him over here across seas to fight in this war. He didn't want to fight in the war. And you can't tell me that this one black man all by himself was going to change the course of the war. It came down to, you're going to do what we tell you to do. That's what that came down to. And no, I'm not. Okay. And that's why they always attack your means of life. They don't necessarily do that with the Caucasian race here in America. I sat and watched Charlie Sheen. I think, yeah, it was Charlie Sheen. I sat there and watched him on national television, well, on social media, with cocaine and everything sitting in front of him, and all he did was have to take some drug and alcohol classes, and he was right back at it. They ended up taking him off eventually, but I was just listening, not just the other day, when Barack Obama said everything that Trump is doing. Can you imagine if he? I'm listening to him, and he said, "Can you imagine if I would have done any of this?" And I'm like, "Oh, like that's so wild that and it's the truth. Can you imagine the kind of uproar that would have happened if Obama would have did any of this stuff that Trump is doing? But I mean, I'm not much of a political figure, you know, and for me, I sit and I say it gets a little frustrating, because I'll see my people and they'll say, "Yeah, man, look at that. We was over here. We was in the Americas before anybody came over here. We did brain surgery. We had disco." Okay, and that's great. That's great. But what are you doing with this information? What are you doing with it? Don't sit and gripe about what was, when you're not doing nothing to boost it again. You know, we don't have anything. I mean, don't you don't think that's weird that we're not in control of anything? I was talking with my sister, and she was saying how she missed them putting out Jet magazine, and it was another magazine. I think I want to say it was Ebony magazine. I'm not sure. I think it was, but they would list a lot of the black-owned companies in both of those magazines. But what we're doing, we're just selling. We're just selling out. We're just selling out of this stuff, and it's sad. It's sad because we have some stuff that we can work with, but we don't use it. I'm right now. I even in my family, there's a fight over property. And the crazy thing about it is, one of the families is fighting. They don't even want to do nothing with it. They just making a fight just to be making a fight. There's no, hey, if you ask them right here, right now, okay, so you're arguing about the property. What do you want to do with it? They can't even answer. It's just a fight, just to be fighting. It's to hold the next person up. Because at the end of the day, why not be part of the solution? And we have to start holding our own people accountable on this stuff. When and I've said it before, when you have somebody like Floyd Mayweather sitting there with $28 million in jewelry, how does that help all the rest of us? And it's not his responsibility, so to speak, to help the rest of us. But you can't sit and you say, "Oh yeah, my blackness. Oh yeah, my people, my culture." You can't make these arguments when you're sitting here, and that's just like he started the little young boy Tank Davis up. But like I said in my other podcast, everybody don't want to box. Everybody does not want to box. It's a fact. It's a fact that the government messes with the resources in certain neighborhoods. If I sit up here and I hold back certain resources from you, I only give you so much of it. I make it to where this a neighborhood over here, I make it where this neighborhood over here gets abundance of resources. And then I come to this neighborhood over here and I give them a fraction of resources that I gave this neighborhood over there. Now, how do you think that's going to play out? And this is even with the empire, we can come out of that. Why? Because when you look, I was just watching Sha'Carri Richardson just ran for the first time in 2025. We are at the top of almost anything that we get involved with. We're at the top. And that is what they try to stop. But see, since they can't stop you from being at the top, they can't outbox you, they can't outrun you, they can't outplay basketball, they can't outplay football, they can't outplay tennis. Even when Tiger Woods got in golf, they hated that boy. They did. And they were glad to see him go. Now they're back at it again. This is why they love sports like hockey, um, cricket, all these other sports, swimming. We need to get more involved in things like that. But because they can't outdo you in these sports, what they do is they turn around and they control the narrative of the sport. They say I'm going to start the team and I'm going to manage the team. And I'm going to make it to where you got to be on my team in order to be successful. You got to play ball the way I want you to play ball. There's a song called Have a Nice Day that Ice Cube and Too Short and the rest of them made. And then he said, you know, like I said, there's words that I can't say. So he said, grab that microphone, Well, and I'm not calling anybody names or anything, but the song said, "Nigga grab that microphone, nigga grab them cleats, nigga catch that pass, nigga rock them beats." So when you're looking at that now, I'm gonna tell you right now, if they stop my video from being able to go through, it's because I said that word. But this is why they um even in that they'll try to control the narrative of whatever it is you're doing. If you're sitting here, they'll have a hook. Even Magic Johnson was only allowed to buy so much of the Commanders. Why don't we have a Jerry Jones? Jerry Jones owns the Dallas Cowboys all by itself. Robert Kraft owns the Patriots all by itself. But see, this is and that's what it comes down to. And when you're powerful like that, they hurry up and they get you under their fold. That's it. That's all. That's first and foremost. Oh, look at this guy. And they'll invest into you. And that's the scheme right there. We'll give you this money. And I remember Master P. He said one time, unless you're talking about $250,000 or more, don't even talk to me. Don't even call me. And I get it. I understand. He said, because what you'll do is you'll go over here to this man with this suit and tie on because you think he's smart. You'll go over here and he'll say to you, I don't want no money from you right now. I'm going to give you this contract. And after you start making your money, I want 10% of what you're making. And then you turn around and you make 500 million. And then in 6 months later, you giving him 50 million. Now, you just did that for this man in 6 months. And that's more. When you do that with him, that's more than what you'll do for your own homeboys who've been with you the whole time since you was young. And one of the biggest sayings that I do love is you can't take everybody with you on your journey. That's a really that's a real, because I look at the position that I'm in right now. I you know I there's I can't take everybody with me. And sometimes you have to let people go so you can go further. And some people want to call it dead weight or whatever, but you got to remember you're building an empire. So when you're building up this empire, how are you actually doing it? How are you building? What are you building with? You have brick, you have straw, you got clay. I mean, what are you building your empire with? I'm and just I try to stress to people to learn different languages. And right now I'm learning Zulu. I just started with Zulu. I'm doing really good. I speak a lot of Spanish. I speak a lot of French. I speak a little bit of Arabic, and now I'm just now starting on Zulu. And when I do the Zulu, and it really hits home. Like it makes you feel a certain way. A lot of Africans speak French, but I challenge people. I do. I challenge them to learn any African language. Learn just even if you just do it for the fun of it. But if you can't, how can you do international business and you can't speak to these people? Like that's because most of us don't even want to learn another language. Like people are okay. Like English is not the only language. Half the time you can't go a whole week without running into somebody that speaks a different language. If you're out here in society and you're dealing with society on a daily basis, I promise you, at least once a week, you'll run into somebody who can't understand you. And a lot of times If you're especially if you're a business owner, that can affect you making some kind of money with your business. It's that, and that's a fact. Even being able to speak to somebody to strike a business deal. Some of those people, most doctors are Indian doctors. A lot of them speak English, but they take it upon themselves. And why do you think they're able to grow and be successful? They've learned the English language. They've navigated through that. So now I'm here in your backyard and they can speak your language and they have the PhD, something that you're struggling to get, and you can walk across the street. They done came over 2,500 miles over the sea, speaking your language, living next to you, and they done went further than you. And it's all about building empires, and like I said, and even when you look at this, like Ibrahim Traore, and what he's doing over in Burkina Faso, you know, is to me, I think this is one of the greatest guys, and they want to kill him. They want to kill him. They want to kill. He just sat up here and he said the black man is so disrespected across the world. Be from being hung, he was castrated just to keep him from reproducing. They didn't even want you to reproduce, man. They castrated you, cut stuff off because they didn't want you to reproduce. They have buck farms. Pull it up. You'll see what I'm talking about. And the main thing that they would do to a man is they would take him and do the most unimaginable things to him in front of his family to keep them in order. This was the American practice. And we're still going through it. like we're still, it's just in a different, that's why I made a lot of the videos that I made before. It's the same thing. It's a different format today. When I put up the badges, it's same badge, different name. That's all it is. Same badge, different name. And even when you look at like a lot of that now, they're pretty much building warehouses like these penitentiaries. They're warehouses. They're not even. There's nothing special about them. They're just warehouses. And that's the outlook for it. And that's why they starve your resources, because if I hold resources back from you, you're trying to build a kingdom. But this is why even in families in our culture, even there, the family contest the man. They contest him from start, because if you're held back with resources and you're hardly able to provide like a man is supposed to, that automatically makes the people in your household look at you a little bit different. If you're sitting here and you're looking at this man and he's supposed to be putting rice on the table and he can barely get you some rice, that's what makes it hard for him. And this is what's going on. This is it's systematic, and it's done on purpose. On purpose. This it's not. It's again. This is not stuff by coincidence. This is why everything with us is emotional. See, if you can't do business if you have a lot of emotion in there, and you can't build this empire up to the heights that you would like it to go. In most cases, it's generational. See, when it's abundance, you don't just think about yourself. You say, okay, you might sit up here and let's take I bought a rotisserie chicken yesterday. Now let's take this rotisserie chicken. Now I don't need to eat the whole rotisserie chicken. I can turn around and say, "Hey, look, I'm gonna give some to my son." Somebody that's across, they say, "I'm hungry." Hey, man, look here. You can have a drumstick or a wing or something. When you have abundance, now you want to share. But if you don't have abundance and it's scarce, your attitude changes. So it's not about building an empire at that point. It's not even about how you gonna build an empire and resources are scarce. No, we got to work with what we got. That's the attitude that you have at that point. Right now, I just saw the other day where they said Trump's trying to starve people. So, people, they need to start buying canned goods, seeds, things like that. You need to, and this is something we need to be doing anyway, because at I just said something. I want to say it was last night. You know, a lot of people, especially in my culture, they leave this earth and they don't even have a piece of, they don't have one blade of grass that they own when they leave here. So even when we're sitting here and we're thinking about building an empire, and on that note, just, and I want you to look at my picture that I have for this segment right here. And it was the most, oh man, I mean, the picture just, it knocked me off my feet. I said, wow, because it says, if the people just stand up, the game is over. It's over. They can't even play the game because now you're gonna stand up. But that, if you look at the picture, that is exactly how they have everybody else, and that's how they have everything going. But if you stand up, the game is over with. So but I just want you to, when we're looking at the emotional part of things, I just want you to look at, when you're building an empire, okay, and you're building an empire. It becomes a generational thing. You want the generation to move forward. You want your generation to move forward. That's that, and that's just a mental aspect of it. That's what you want. You want it to move forward. You want your children to go further. You want your family members to prosper, and you can look at it and you can say, "I want everybody to prosper. I want you to do." Even if you read the Bible, you can look at it. We're going to go over here, and you're going to go over there, and you're going to have this land, and they didn't really leave them unless it was a conquering situation. And that's what I keep trying to tell people, even on a spiritual aspect. It was conquering. It's not, oh, they stole this land, they did. No, you got conquered. It was conquering. I mean, people can look at it however they want to look at it, but if you sit up here and you have something and you lose it to somebody else, whether you want to say it was stuff, because okay, if that's the case, then we should be able to get it back right here, right now. Now think about that, and now you got to think about why we're not able to get it back. Why, I mean, when you look at police brutality, you look at start the holding back of resources in neighborhoods and things like that. Why is it? Why is that happening? Is it because they actually have the power to do it, or is it because the people won't stand up? Hey, look, that's my time, you all. Thank you for coming and joining in. Again, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Um, I hope you all like my videos. And I hope to see nobody's hitting me with no questions. I saw a few people came on today. So thank you for coming on. Um, Again, I encourage people to ask questions, and give me your comments. So until next time, I'm your host, Tad Al. Come on back to Epic Guys Radio. I'm going to holler at you in a minute.